Okay, thank you everyone. Like the chair said, my name is Denis, and I'll be discussing research I've been doing on mediating ZZZ interactions in quantum annealer. So just to reiterate, quantum annealing, we want to find solve problems by finding the ground state of quantum systems, and the paradigm that we've been investigating so far is the transverse field Ising Hamiltonian, where we embed our problems in a maximum of two local interactions on a physical system. But through all the research that's been going on, natural questions arise of how can we improve this, and some of the proposals mentioned are using multi-qubit interactions, multi-qubit couplers. So for example, it could help more efficiently embed hard problems that have higher interaction terms, such as, for example, the 3-sat problem that could be natively embedded using a ZZZ coupler, error correction schemes that use multi-qubit operators, and like Adrian Lupascu mentioned this morning, there's a very interesting connection between higher order couplers and multi-qubit couplers and multi-qubit measurements. And it also opens the door to more exotic architectures, such as all-to-all connectivity type architectures. So just so that we're all on the same page, what should we look for when designing a ZZZ coupler? Well, we want to implement a Hamiltonian like this as our problem Hamiltonian, where we just have our 3-order term added on, and we want the capability of mediating a pure ZZZ interaction if we want to, without any spurious ZZ terms, which is not a trivial thing. And we want it obviously to be a simple circuit design and simple to be implemented in a large-scale annealer. And we want a large and tunable in sign and magnitude coupling strength on the order of a gigahertz or so. So the annealing with superconducting flux qubits is done through the superconducting persistent current states of the flux qubits that mimic spins, and the high excitation energy couplers that mediate ZZ interactions in this way. And it can be written in terms of the current operators of the 2 qubits, and the tunability comes from the susceptibility of the coupler, or the current response of the coupler, and it has been demonstrated to be fully operational through threading flux through this small loop. So we get the full tunability of the sign through threading flux in this small loop. So with this interesting fact of threading flux in the small loop controlling everything, we proposed this design to mediate strong ZZZ interactions, where we couple the 3rd qubit inside or to this small tuning loop, so that we have our effective interaction Hamiltonian depend on the flux coming from this 3rd qubit, so that our susceptibility now depends on the offset flux coming from the 3rd qubit, and we can readily expand it to get the 3rd order term. And now this is effectively a Z-controlled ZZ interaction. So this was our initial thinking, and to characterize it and explore it in further detail, we simulated it. So by writing the full system Hamiltonian with the 3 qubits, the coupler and their interaction, we take the Born-Oppenheimer approximation on the fast coupler degrees of freedom. So that is meaning the coupler is expected to have a larger gap than the qubits, and that it will stay in its ground state throughout the evolution, so that we can understand the coupling through the parameterized ground state of the coupler that will be dependent on the slower degrees of freedom of the qubits. And now this interaction between the qubits will depend on the potential energy surface of the coupler ground state in this way. Now, upon first analysis, we wanted to do a semi-classical approach where we want to treat the qubit as classical binary variables, so classical offset fluxes. So instead of having a quantum variable in the ground state potential energy surface, we just treat them as offset fluxes that have a minus plus or 1 spin variable. And now that we've described the potential energy surface of the coupler in this way, we write we can generally expand it in this expression here, where we just generally expand it in this way, and we numerically calculate the potential energy surface of the coupler with all the configuration of the spin variables, and it is related to these 8 coupling parameters in this way, and we can find them by just inverting this equation. Now, doing this and looking at the two tuning knobs we have, so the flux threading the large loop and the small loop of the coupler, we looked at how tunable and how strong this 3-order interaction was. And we observed a very strong dependence on the nonlinearity of the coupler, or the size of the Josephson junctions, if you will. So not only does it increase in magnitude, so here we have like 20 megahertz, then we have 200, and then we have 1 gigahertz. But it also becomes narrower, and the flux response becomes much stronger. So in order to characterize this even further and to confirm these results, we wanted to do a full quantum system simulations. So diagonalize all the full system. But since we have a large number of degrees of freedom coming in from the extra 3 qubits we want to treat quantumly, we diagonalize each subsystems independently using a code we developed at UW Waterloo and a tool developed at Lincoln Lab as well. And then diagonalize the subsystems independently, truncate that to the lower energy basis, and then write the interaction operators between them in this lower energy basis, and then combine the full system, and then we have the complete spectrum of the system. And to characterize the 3-order coupling energies, we tuned the system in, we used a method just to look at the anti-crossings like Chang mentioned before, and that was used at Lincoln Lab to characterize their 2-body couplers as well, where we just measure the splitting between 2 levels that are coupled by a certain operator, in this case the ZZZ operator. So tuning the two qubits that are coupled to the main loop so that they have the same delta, and sweeping the 3rd qubit to interfere with this, the sum of both of the first qubits, we have this energy spectrum where these 2 states are coupled by the ZZZ operator. There's a 3-qubit flip between them. And then measuring this gives us an interaction strength of about, in this situation, 250 megahertz. But there's an important caveat here where there's a lot of very strong ZZ interactions in this model, in this present design. And there's no point in the bias space where the ZZZ terms, or the 3-body terms, are non-zero and tunable, and the 2-body terms are 0. So there was a design modification that needed to happen, because we saw them both in the Born-Oppenheimer method and the full numerical simulation. So just to solve this, we introduced a second SQUID loop with a twist in its main loop, so that it would cancel the ZZ interactions. So by exploiting the symmetries in this circuit, the current components responsible for the 2-body terms are effectively canceled in a certain bias range, and we have full independent control of the 3-order and 2-order terms. So we can have a mix of them all, and or a pure ZZZ interaction if we want. So to to look at it with the simulation results using the Born-Oppenheimer method, we see that there is a line when we bias both couplers on opposite signs of flux. We have that all the two-body terms are 0, and we have full tunability of the ZZZ interaction. And we also have an increase because of the added coupler, an increase in the 3-order term as well. And we did the same result simulations using the full numerical simulation, and we see a very, very similar graph of the full tunability coming from this symmetric coupling. But it's important to note that in this region here, in this full numerical method, we see that the coupler states become comparable or smaller than the qubit levels. So this is not a range where you want to operate the coupler, and this is why the behavior is a bit strange. So when we put these both methods next to each other, we see that we have a very good qualitative agreement, but the Born-Oppenheimer method really overestimates the coupling strength. And this has been observed in two-body couplers, for example, where the nonlinearity of the circuit really, after a certain point, makes the Born-Oppenheimer break down. So we think this is responsible for this as well, because we are operating this coupler in a very nonlinear regime. But this method is very, very useful for qualitative first analysis for its computational efficiency. We only need to numerically diagonalize the coupler without treating the qubits as quantum. So it's very useful to see where to operate the coupler to have cancellations of the terms in that. So we're currently investigating this discrepancy more, and for looking for possible corrections to add to this model. And finally, I'd just like to mention quickly other multi-qubit or ZZZ interaction proposals that have been put forward. So the UCL group have their gadget based on a combination of ancillary qubits, and there is actually a poster here. I looked. It was in the session previously. The NGC group also has developed a ZZZ coupler, but it uses galvanic coupling, so it doesn't. So not like this one where we have full independent inductive coupling. And in the UW group as well, Edward Tang have been developed a perturbative gadget that also mediates a 3-order term, and you can learn more about it in the poster session tomorrow. Now, just to summarize, we've proposed and analyzed the promising ZZZ coupler. Both the Born-Oppenheimer method and the full numerical simulations confirm the prospects to use this in a quantum annealer. And we have strong and tunable in sign and magnitude 3-order interactions. And then we have asymmetric interactions, which is very interesting as well, of the order of a gigahertz confirmed, and a very comfortable range of where we have no spurious 2-order terms as well. And it's very, very simple design, easy to implement, because it's equivalent to the complexity of 2 qubits, since we have just added 2 loops to the system, just these 2 squids. And it uses all the available resources in the QEO program. I forgot to mention. And the outlook is just, so we're looking to physically implement this and experimentally test and confirm these results. And we're looking forward to designing annealing architectures or experiments that take full advantage of this ZZZ interaction. And I hope to be discussing this week with anybody who's interested. And finally, I'd just like to thank the team members at UWaterloo and the IARPA for the funding and the QEO project, and some acknowledgements in the Lincoln Lab for discussions and help with tools. So thank you.
We have time for a couple questions. tricky. So I wanted to ask about the cancellation of the two-body CC terms. So do you rely here only on the fact that one of the loops is, so to say, with a twist, or do you have a handle to fine-tune this cancellation?
Well, like I mentioned, we have full range of combinations. So there's just in this new design where we have this twist, we now have an operating point where the ZZ terms are canceled. That wasn't there before, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the question is if there's fabrication errors or one loop is a little bit longer than the other one,
okay,
or things like this, do you have a handle to correct for that?
Okay, yeah. So the fabrication variations or sensitivities is something that I'm looking at right now, and the preliminary results look promising, but it's not something I have a definitive quantitative. But it is very easy to find the new operating point if we have all four tuning knobs available. We can find a new operating point.
One more question? Anyone? Well, if not, let's thank the speaker again.